Hey, what's going on? We're here backstage at Winnipeg Comiccon. I'm with Matthew Lewis. I learned something about you that I didn't know today. I mean, obviously the Harry Potter stuff, everybody knows that stuff, but you are a commentator. You've got your own podcast, and it has something to do with something you're passionate about, which is football. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so during COVID, Leeds United, which is my team back in the UK, we got promoted back to the Premier League after a long absence. And my friends decided to put a podcast together, so we did, with the ex-Leeds player called Jermaine Beckford. And then out of the blue, a few months into it, the club got in touch and said they were thinking of knocking a podcast together themselves. Would we like to become the official Leeds United podcast? And now we are. So now we're employed by the club, and I got to meet a bunch of the players, and that's a bit of a dream come true for me. Yeah,
it must be an absolute thrill being a lifelong fan.
Absolutely. I've been going to Ellen Road since I was a boy, and particularly living in America, it's I don't get to as many games as I would like to these days. But certainly, through the powers of the internet, we can do all this sort of stuff now. And it really is a dream come true. I have to keep pinching myself to figure out why on earth I've been given this opportunity.
And obviously, fans are excited to meet you this weekend because of your character in Harry Potter. And we briefly touched on science fiction. That's a genre you'd like to work in. I'm lobbying hard for you to be in Star Trek, so I'm putting it out there. How excited would you be if you got that call?
Oh, I mean, I actually got very close to one recently. When I was growing up, I was a huge Star Wars fan. I still am. You can be both. I was a Star Wars fan. I had the special edition 1997.
100%.
Yeah, so I got that, which obviously is not as good as the original, so you try and get the original when you can. Obviously, George is keen to bury those, but they are the better versions. But I
despecialized edition.
Yes, the original theatrical release, if you can. And I do own them. I loved it. I love science fiction. I always have done, whether it's books or whatever. I'm reading the Hyperion series right now, Dan Simmons, which I'm just engrossed in. But yeah, Star Trek, as I get a bit older, my brothers are older than me, so my brother was a huge Trekkie and really sort of brought me up on Next Generation and Voyager. And actually, my first experience of anything like this was at Forbidden Planet, which is a comic book store in the UK. I don't even know if it still exists.
I know it does. I was in London, and it's still there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So in Leeds, where I'm from, when I was about 9 years old, I queued up to meet Robert Duncan McNeil and Ethan Phillips from Star Trek Voyager, and that was my first experience of this. And I've been a Star Trek fan ever since. So yeah, that's certainly one thing that I'd love to be involved in one day.
Thanks for taking the time.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.